Here's some tips on rounding decimal numbers. So let's start with rounding 726.5 to the nearest 10. So our strategy is going to be to write down the number and then focus on the digit that's in the place value that you're rounding to. So we'll look in the tens column and we want to think about that 2 that's in the tens column and ask ourselves, should we round that up to 3 or leave it as 2? And to answer that question, we look at the next place value over, and if that digit in that next place value over is 5 or higher, we'll round the 2 up to a 3, and if it's not, if it's 4 or lower, we'll leave it as a 2. So in this case we have 6 in the next place value over, and so we're going to round the 2 up to a 3. So we'll write down 7 and then 3, and then any other place values that we need to fill in, we'll fill in with zeros. So 726.5 rounded to the nearest 10 is 730. Okay, let's take the same number, 726.5, and now let's round it to the nearest whole number. So we want to know whether to leave the 6 as a 6 or to round it up to a 7. To do that, look at the next place value over, it's 5, and so we're going to round the 6 up to a 7. Okay, we don't have any more place values to fill in this case, and so our final answer is 727. Okay, next one, 726.5 is already rounded to the nearest tenth, and we don't have any more digits, and so we can't round to the nearest hundredth, and so the next one that we can do is going to be 385.46 rounded to the nearest 10. Okay, so our strategy is to look at the digit that's in the tens column. So it's an 8. We want to know whether to leave that as an 8 or round it up to a 9. To do that, look at the next digit over. It's a 5, so it's 5 or higher, so we round the 8 up to a 9. So 3, 9, and then fill in a 0. Next one, let's do the same number, 385.46, only let's round it to the nearest whole number. So we're asking ourselves, should we leave the 5 as a 5 or round it up to a 6? To do that, look at the next digit over, it's a 4, and so we leave the 5 as it is. So 385. Okay, next one, let's round that same number to the nearest tenth. Okay, so we're going to look at this 4 and ask ourselves whether to leave it as a 4 or round it up to a 5. So to do that, we look at the next digit over, it's a 6, so it's 5 or higher, so we round the 4 up to a 5. 385.5. Okay, and this number is already reported to the nearest hundredth, and so the next one that we're going to be able to do is the 96.587, and we're going to first round that to the nearest 10. So 96.587. Okay, here's our strategy. Look at the digit that's in the tens column. So asking ourselves whether to round the 9 up to a 10 or leave it as a 9. Look at the next digit over. It's a 6. It's 5 or higher, so we round the 9 up to a 10. And then fill in a 0. Okay, next one. Let's take the same number and round it to the nearest whole number. So the strategy is to look at the digit that's in the ones column. It's a 6. Shall we leave it as a 6 or round it up to 7? Look at the next digit over. It's a 5, so it's 5 or higher, so we round the 6 up to a 7. Okay, next one. Same number, only we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So we want to know what to do with that 5. Do we leave it as a 5 or round it up to 6? Look at the next digit over, it's an 8, it's 5 or higher, so round the 5 up to a 6. And then finally 96.587 again, just round it to the nearest hundredth. So look in the hundredths column, ask ourselves what to do with that 8. Leave it as an 8 or round it up to a 9. Look at the next digit over, it's a 7, so it's 5 or higher, so round the 8 up to a 9. Okay, so 4 more to do. Let's look at 46.0542. So hopefully you've got the idea now. We want to know whether to round the 4 up to a 5. The next digit over is a 6, so we'll round it up. There you go. So the answer is 50. Next one, 46.0542 again. And round that to the nearest whole number. So do we leave the 6 as a 6 or round it up to 7? Well, the next digit over is a 0, so we leave it as a 6. Okay, next one, 0542. We want to know what to do with this digit here in the tenths column. Look at the next digit over, it's a 5, so we're going to round it up. And finally, going to round that 46.0542 to the nearest hundredth. So we want to know what to do with the 5. Leave it as a 5 or round it up to 6. Next digit over is a 4, so we'll leave it alone. Okay, so there we go. So that's some tips on rounding decimal numbers.